Oh, sorry. All right, what is going on, YouTube? Uh, this one was actually really strange for me to see suddenly, from Bellular News, which I watch his content once in a while, never really react to it. But this one is very interesting because he's talking about Kerbal space program too, which I remember seeing an announcement about this a long time ago, and apparently it's a development hell, which I didn't know this, and also he's going to go into depth of of everything what's happening. And I'll be honest with you, I thought this game came out already. And when he's pretty much explaining that it isn't, I thought it was crazy. But let's see what this man is gonna say about everything about Kerbal Space Program, the sequel, the second one. But let's go.
Okay, this is a fairly big update to one of the most egregious and kind of revolting stories of recent times. It really is shameful. For a very long time, Take-Two Interactive were selling Kerbal Space Program 2 early access at full price, and in fact, it is
Oh
still on
wow.
Steam in early access at full price. Just that it sort of has no real known developer or publisher right now. I mean, it says The Intercept are the people who made it in Steam, but that company doesn't
Oh yeah, released. So it is released, right? Then who owns it?
exist anymore. Everybody lost their job. And there's evidence from some internal sources that show just how doomed this project was. Take Two should be absolutely ashamed of how they have handled this. After the rough launch of KSP2 in mid 2024, Take Two
Okay, so it did. It's not a development hell. It's in like it's I would say ownership hell. I said the wrong thing entirely. It's ownership hell. Wow.
told the Seattle government that they were laying off staff from the developer called The Intercept. They then publicly denied that they were closing the company. They offered no tangible game updates, even though this game was their responsibility, being currently sold in early access, which is a great way to treat both your staff and your paying customers. But then November
Right.
saw them admit that actually they did close the studio down. Now, this only happened as a part of also admitting that they had sold off their indie publishing label Private Division, but
Wow.
they sold it off to an unknown buyer. We actually still don't know who owns any of this stuff right now. Of course,
All
though, they
right.
did lay off most of Private Division's staff before the sale, and that means the sale was likely more about Private Division's like various assets, contracts, IP, that sort of thing. The fact that this game is
So it just looks like it just yeah. So it just looks like everything's just kind of scattered everywhere. But it is a very good question. Who owns this game in particular? Especially if it was, well, not exactly a full launch, but an early access. And given, wow, I'll be honest with you, if Steam catches wind of this, and they definitely will, I think they're gonna step up and be like, hey, if no one claims this game or anything like that, or like or something, if there's no like actual development team and ownership or anything like that, I think they might just give everyone full refunds and just completely stop the game for it to be available for sale. Probably that might be an extreme choice, but it might even be the right choice.
is currently being sold and we don't even know who owns the rights is absolutely ridiculous because that money is going to somebody. It's on Steam, early access, £44.99, enjoying a 12% recent rating and a 34% overall rating. Strauss
Wow.
Zelnick, the CEO of the company and ageless vampire daddy of AAA gaming, told GameIndustry.biz, quote, "The scale of those projects was candidly on the smaller side, and we're in the business of making great big hits." Yeah, that's why
Okay.
Private Division and The Intercept and Kerbal Space Program are gone. But that is still not a reason to treat people and your customers with contempt. This video recently came out. It's really quite gut wrenching. It's
Ooh.
from Nate Simpson, who's the former
I agree. I agree. Like this isn't the way that you should treat your customers and everything like that. Your employees, here's like, man. If they're willing to go this far to with their customers, what do they do to their employees, man? You know, like what do they do? And this let's see what Nate's gonna say.
creative director of Kerbal Space Program 2 at The
All right.
Intercept. And for very obvious NDA related reasons, he really was not able to say much. But goddamn, you can see the pain in his eyes
Oh
throughout this
yeah,
video. You can hear the pain
you can
in his
see the
voice. It seems
distress.
like a horrible time. Now, to summarize things, KSP2 was his dream job, his dream project, and his role was to push the game towards the final shape that he had envisioned, right? Now, he was also the face of the project, especially to the internet, which, given the state of this game, was a fairly hard gig. Basically, he felt the community's desire and frustration very tangibly, being the face of the game, but he did admit and apologize to the rest of his team that he really struggled to balance that. Basically, he apologizes in the video for late night messages and the whole thing being a source
Yeah, he feels a responsibility for maybe like the failure of the project essentially, or the failure of the company. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't even his fault, man. I'm pretty sure some of this was beyond his control, or maybe all of it might have been beyond his control. But
of stress. Now, he also recognized in the video that he was sort of the last person there to accept that the studio really was going to close down, at least
yeah,
partially because
of
he was
course.
not able to release any information to the public, and that basically meant that there were people, creators, media, etc., who he was talking to, where he kind of just had to go dark on them.
Yeah,
Now, he's
and
not
the
bitter
NDA,
to the
bro.
community or anything in this video. He says that people have been fair and good natured in their criticisms, but otherwise, he is now another of 2024's over 50
Bro, that. Let me see. Let me kind of go back like frame by frame. That picture of him right there. That picture, just that frame, you can see just everything of sadness behind his eyes. You can see everything, bro. You can see sadness, contempt, just sorrow, depression, um what is it? Rejection. You can see everything. He's literally doing like 1,000 yard stare, like he's just and what he and and from what the man said, he was the last one to come to an agreement that the company was shut down. you know how could this is your dream game, your dream job. This is something that you loved and enjoyed, and just and you feel the responsibility of the shutdown, and then all this happens. it, it's understandable why he's like the last one to be like, nah, it'll what is it? It'll bounce back, and then it doesn't. Yeah, man. I Yeah. Is that just a picture? Oh man, I really hope it was a video.
24's over 15,000 laid off game industry workers. Understandably, there's been an outpouring of sympathy for him, both in the comments, obviously from creators as well, like Shadowzone and Scott Manley. But there's an outstanding question, certainly you'll be wondering after watching his video, why the hell did any of this happen? So
Yeah.
here's overall what has been put together. Big picture, Kerbal Space Program 2's early development was a just complete corporate disaster. Here's the short version of all of that. So KSP2 was announced in 2019 under the company Star Theory Games, and it was supposed to launch in 2020,
Yeah.
which
I
obviously didn't
I
happen.
remember this.
Now, in 2021, Take-Two established a studio called The Intercept, and they waged minor corporate war against Star Theory. Per Bloomberg's reporting, Take-Two were in discussions to purchase Star Theory, but rather than doing that, they simply just hired a third of their staff away from the company to their new team at The Intercept, who of course
Okay.
had the Kerbal Space Program 2 gig. Then Star Theory have
Like if they couldn't buy the team, buy the developers, by the individual people. Yeah, that's one way to go about it.
just lost a third of their staff and the project that was sustaining their company, well, they shut down the very same year. So, a really lovely, happy way to reboot development of the game. KSP2
Right.
was then delayed into 2023 with the intention of hitting feature parity with KSP1 before then building out like the full early access experience. None of that obviously went well, but it's the generally known take on events. Now, things got a little more interesting when, in mid 2024, a longtime Kerbal Space Program creator, Shadowzone, went in pretty deep. And here's a summary, definitely get more from his video, but a summary of what went
Right.
on. So, initially,
Also, he was the so he kind of did a deep dive on kind of what was going on and such. Wow, he must have uncovered a lot if just nothing for the past couple of years, because the game was announced in 2019 and didn't go into early access to what 2023. Yeah, man, that's understandable. Like, what the hell happened for the past couple of years? Why was it just nothing?
The pitch to
You know,
Star Theory was small scale.
understandable.
It was $10 million in 2 years to iterate on Kerbal Space Program. People on the project, like the creative director Nate, were quite ambitious. They were thinking, okay, we
Mm-hmm.
got Kerbal 1, how do we push this thing forward? They thought about interstellar travel, they even thought about having colonies and planets. Now, the thing is, Take Two did not change the budget or the
Mm.
timescale to match this vision. It seems that vision was then bought onto, and then they were held back by the Take Two contract from
Mm.
further hiring so they could scale up the project. Now, Shadow Zone
So this was the first one. Oh, okay. So this wasn't the second one. The second one was later. Oh, okay. You could definitely see of like how, kind of like the rough draft as it was before. Um but okay.
then suggests that NDA and corporate secrecy meant that this team, very much an indie scale team, actually couldn't advertise for quite some time that they were working on Kerbal space program stuff, and that then meant that they couldn't really get engineers with the knowledge that we needed. And it's funny, but one of the reasons why in the games industry companies often announce projects way in advance is because they want to hire people for that project. Especially, right, whenever we had a tight labor market, as we did a few years ago. One
Mm-hmm.
example is Ubisoft's Splinter Cell tease. That whole thing was basically just, we've greenlit a Splinter Cell, please come and join us. Obviously, who knows how that's going. Anyway,
Oh lordy. Don't even remind me. Dude, wait, when did they do that? Was that back? When did they do that? I don't even know, but bro, don't even remind me, man. I want there to be another Splinter Cell game since that man is still alive. The voice of Sam Fisher. He's a very old man, which I didn't which I really didn't know this, but yeah, he's an elderly man, and so honestly, I would say kind of do as much work as you can with him when he's alive, but for what it looks like, when they did what was it called, Blacklist or whatever, which I didn't think it'd do so hot, but man, after everything I saw with Shadows and what was the other one, Skull and Bones, and there might have been another one. I don't I don't look forward to it. I'm sorry, I don't look forward to it.
this seemingly then extended to the company not actually being able to talk to Kerbal Space Program 1 developers or even get guidance from those developers, in spite of something kind of crazy from management, which was a plan to
Mm.
replicate all of the features from Kerbal Space Program 1 and then
Right.
being required to reuse Kerbal Space Program 1 code instead of rebuilding, which is very strange. You can absolutely see how, if you were trying to be real quick and scrappy, you could
Yeah, that could be an issue, especially if you're trying to really innovate and really change the way how the game is. And why it wouldn't be suggested to use old code. I mean, you could, but if you really want to change how the whole system works, then using the old code may not be advisable to even do so to begin with. But okay.
do that. I can see management making a call like that, but if you're scoping your project much higher, surely rewriting some things, solving old technical debt that's probably been carried around in that project for years and years, surely that would be worth it, especially if you're going to end up carrying it all into early
Mm-hmm.
access where you really will need to be showing people that you're actually able to ship content. You need that technical debt to be gone. So it seems crazy that they were just kind of forced to use old code. That seems odd to me. So that was the
I'll be honest with you. Seeing the way how the game was like laid out of like what you got to do and everything, man. I don't think I could have played this game. This is the game dead. Like the people who really like complication, like uh, who really like things like this. Personally, for me, I think if I saw it, I would have been like, "Bro, this looks too much. I'm done." I was like, I'm being honest. I'm being for real. Maybe this could be your type of game, but for me, I don't think so, man. I don't think so.
pretty horrible early stage of
But okay.
things. This apparently continued whenever the Intercept took over from Star Theory, and they were given a hard release date of 2023. Early
Yeah.
access was obviously a call made to lower expectations. nowhere near enough, especially for the price that that game is being sold for. Now, the post-launch story is very simple and very sad. Teams got slashed, they got restructured, the game was basically never really given a chance to deliver, and then Take-Two stripped Private Division, the publishing label handling all of this for parts, and they closed down the Intercept. Kerbal Space Program 2 to them was simply a bet that did not pay off, but one that was meaningless to them given the overall scale they operate at. But what if I told you there's other people who are trying to take the right path? Because turns out there is. The creator of DayZ, Dean Hall, has actually got a studio called Rocketworks. They actually pitched for the Kerbal Space Program 2 gig, right? But per his telling of the story anyway, they didn't land the gig because they focused almost entirely on the technical aspects of the project, rather than basically doing a very art-led pitch. Now, those on the call from the publisher didn't really like that. The implication is that KSP2 was supposed to be like full-fledged big brand energy so that they could have merch, toys, all of those things. So the visuals really mattered.
Yeah,
While
of
this
course.
studio was coming in and basically saying a whole bunch of technical things, which probably made loads of sense for development. And it absolutely seems that some of the scrappy reuse of code didn't really help the project that ended up happening. The joke's on them anyway, because Rocketworks is right now developing KSA, Kitten Space Agency, and they're doing so with former Kerbal Space Program developers and modders. Now, at
I like that. I like that. Nothing's better than dude, nothing's better than saying, yeah, man, even though they, even though they did all, they screwed all this up. They want to do this other stuff, but you know what? After the whole firing and everything, screw it. Let's do our own thing. And you know what? If it does as well as the original game, then so be it, So be it. Because clearly that person wanted to keep doing this more, which very obviously so, and did it. I hope it does well. For sure. Do it.
the sort of start of their project, their big focus is on technical performance and scalability. The gamier elements basically will come second, and that actually does make sense given the draw of this game. Obviously, it needs to not be soulless, but I mean, come on, it's a rocketry simulation. You need to have that stuff technically right. So their first focus is a single solar system that can effectively be swapped out or just iterated on by modders. And as for the kittens, basically comedy. I mean, there's definitely something to be said for Cats Have 9 Lives and us blasting kittens all over the place into space. Being lighthearted was a core part of why Kerbal was beloved, because, I mean, so much of it was glorious failure and rocket explosions. And so we're left with two projects that are extremely different where the contrast really does matter. Here, they're focusing on a crazy thing called solid technical foundations in the name of Project Health. It ain't sexy, but it works. They're not just quickly reusing the KSP1 codebase, slapping a few features on, and thinking they can drive some tasty shareholder returns for the company that owns Grand Theft Auto and the absolute banger factory that is Zynga. But there is still a bit of a mystery. Kerbal Space Program 2.
Oh, Take-Two owns Zynga? Really? Damn, that's a massive mobile games was a company. Man, who hasn't played a single Zynga game? Or at least one of them, especially back in the early like what 2010s and things like that when mobile games were like being like massively blasting off. Bro, that was crazy back then, man. Oh yeah. Who remembers what was that game? Tap Tap? I think that's what it's called. Oh man, that was an awesome bootleg Guitar Hero. And the Guitar Hero made their own. And so did Rock Band. Those are awesome.
Because you may have noticed it's still on Steam. Somebody owns Private Division, and that means they own Kerbal Space Program 2. That is, like, this is one of the weirdest final sections to a video I've done, because the game is for sale right now. Somebody is getting money, right? There's a Steam publisher account. Money's going into it. And nobody knows who owns that account, or who has access any of that. So what is this? Is the buyer doing the game development equivalent of just purchasing a struggling business to try and turn it around? Is this house flipping Steam edition? Don't really know. What it is obviously a poisoned chalice. Now, handled right, that crisis, well, that could be an opportunity, because you're not the person who made all of those mistakes. You could be the person who acquired this asset, got a team together, fixed Kerbal Space Program 2, and away you go. You could be that. I don't really think it's that likely, and let's be real, does anyone want a Steam page with 34% and 12%? Like 12% their recent review scores? It's going to be very hard to rehabilitate that game. Nobody really knows.
I'll be honest with you, man. Yeah, as you said, somebody is still getting that money, but it's crazy because like even after all, how long has that been going on? And if this has been going on for a long time, then how come no one has said anything about it's under new developers or they're people that are trying to make it right or something? It's none of those things. It looks like it's none of those things. So what is going on? But okay.
So all of this leaves is a trail of developers who've been messed around, scathing reviews, and fans who were sold a false promise
Yeah.
for a shockingly high price for an early access title. Very strange. Take Two, you really messed this one up. That's it for this video. There is plenty more, so check this out next.
It's so sad because it's just sad because one, the game is at a very expensive early access. It's what, 45 euros. That's actually how much is that? Is that like $50 here? Um, well, whatever the price may be. That one that's a very expensive early access, and two, the game doesn't even look like it's any bit finished. So it's probably like 40% done, 50% done. I don't even think the devs are even more than halfway done with it. Obviously, being early access, right? But it's just it's just crazy to me that all this is going on. No one knows who's the game, who's the developers, who's the publishers. It's all in these weird like behind the curtains, people who is doing something with the game. There's got to be someone doing something, or maybe they just have it there and just collecting money from it and doesn't even matter. I don't know, man. This is certainly crazy, man. It's crazy. I have no idea how Steam can even allow this and even allow anyone who, what is it? I just, I if I was Steam, I would certainly ask the question, is there going to be any more updates to this game, or is this going to be it? Because honestly, if this is going to be it, then I'll be honest with you. I would kind of hope that they would kind of force them to, you know, remove the early access and say, hey, this is going to be the full game, or just be able to refund everyone. But I don't know. I guess we'll see in the future what Steam may do. They may end up stepping up if things get out of hand with this or something. But who knows? But as always, thank you so much for watching, and of course, check out Bellular. Was it Bellular? God, why does it sound so weird for me to say? But check out his channel, Bellular News. He's great. I've checked out his stuff once in a while. And what is it? Like and subscribe. And I'll check you guys out next time. Peace. And man, I hope that guy's project does really well. I hope so. What's it called? Kittens in Space. Hopefully that does well. All right.